Greetings, and welcome to the Movie Recap Vault. In this session, we're presenting an action, mystery, and thriller movie. In the opening scene, we're introduced to Dominika, a well-known ballet sensation in the Bolshoi company from Russia. She's been dancing since she was a teen and is currently the lead ballerina. Dominika leaves her mom in the care of a caregiver and heads off to work at the ballet theater. Her uncle Ivan, who happens to be the deputy director of Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, the SVR, meets her there. The mood gets serious when mobster Dmitry Ustinov appears. He asks for a photo, but then gets inappropriately touchy with Dominika. The ballet starts, and Dominika hits the stage with her breathtaking dance moves, leaving the audience in awe. During the performance, her dance partner falls on the back of her leg, seriously fracturing it. She's rushed to the hospital for emergency surgery. We then meet Nate Nash, a CIA agent stationed in Moscow. He's planning to meet with one of his assets in Gorky Park when suddenly the police show up. Thinking fast, Nate fires shots into the ground to create a distraction, making sure his Russian mole, codenamed Marble, can slip away without getting caught. Unfortunately, Nate is detained by the authorities. The American embassy steps in and ensures Nate's safety. He gets a chance to meet his superiors, but they drop a bombshell: he's getting deported back to the US because of his mistake. The next day, Ivan pays a visit to the director of the SVR, General Zakharov. They've got some interesting footage to show him. It's from Nate's meeting in Gorky Park. And what's got their attention is the unidentified individual who was there. The mysterious General Korchnoi assesses the situation. After that, we return to Dominika, who wakes up in a hospital bed to find her leg encased in a metal frame. It's heartbreaking for her to realize that she can never dance again. As months go by, she still relies on a cane to walk. During a visit, Uncle Ivan drops a bombshell: her replacement has been found, and that means she won't get any more benefits from her workplace. No rent-free apartment, or medical support for her mother. But he offers to help her and tells her to reach out when she's ready. Before he leaves, he hands Dominika an envelope that holds some shocking secrets. It contains intimate photos of her former dance partner and her replacement, along with a recording of their conversation. The recording implies that her partner intentionally caused the accident to make way for his girlfriend to take Dominika's place. This revelation sparks a fire in Dominika, and she heads straight to the theater to confront her former partner and his girlfriend. She watches them practice and follows them to the steam room where they get cozy. In a fit of rage, Dominika takes out her anger on them, using her cane to exact her vengeance. On her way back to her apartment, she stops by a phone booth and decides to report the incident as an accident. The stakes are getting higher, and Dominika's journey is becoming more intense. Following her career's tragic downfall, Dominika seeks help from her uncle, who agrees to assist her under one condition. The SVR, Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, is keen on gathering intel about a gangster named Dmitry. So, her uncle asks Dominika to use her feminine charms to befriend Dmitry and gain his trust. Though hesitant, Dominika finds herself with no other choice, as her mother's medical expenses are piling up. That very night, Dominika dresses to impress and heads to the hotel where Dmitry is staying. She catches his eye at the bar, and as expected, Dmitry approaches her, offering his assistance. She plays her part, expressing her desire to feel special once again, and they move to a private room, leaving Dmitry's guards outside. However, their encounter takes a dark turn when he asks her to undress and then forces himself on her. Suddenly, a mysterious figure wearing a black helmet enters the room and brutally murders Dmitry, while he's assaulting Dominika. Dominika's world turns upside down as the intruder throws a coat at her to cover her bloodied body and swiftly rescues her through the back door. They escape on a motorcycle and arrive at an interrogation facility. The man reveals himself as Matorin, an SVR agent sent by her uncle Ivan. Soon after, Ivan arrives and lays out her options: either join the SVR as an operative or face execution for witnessing the murder. Predictably, she decides to work for them to save her own life. Following her decision, Dominika finds herself enrolled in State School 4, a brutal and demanding institution that specializes in training Sparrows, SBR operatives skilled in the art of using their seductive abilities to manipulate targets. On her first day at the school, she meets Matron, the headmistress of the Sparrow program. Matron gives her a new identity and guides her into the facility. The very next day, the rigorous training begins, and Matron addresses the students, emphasizing the chaos in the world and how Russia is the only country willing to sacrifice for its resolution. She drops a bombshell by declaring that their bodies now belong to the state, and they are obligated to perform any task assigned to them. Dominika's life has taken another dark turn, and the stakes are higher than ever as she enters this world of espionage and manipulation. With her future hanging in the balance, she must navigate this intense training and find a way to survive in the world of sparrows. In the following scene, Nate has a meeting with a CIA panel, and they chastise him for his blunder in Russia. However, Nate puts up a strong argument, explaining that he has a long history of working with Marble and believes no one else can be trusted by Marble than him. After some consideration, his plea is heard, and he's granted a second chance to redeem himself. To get back on track, Nate is assigned to Budapest, the nearest city practical for re-establishing contact with Marble. Little do they know, their every move is under close watch by the SVR. Meanwhile, at State School 4, Matron focuses on teaching the Sparrows a crucial skill, identifying what their targets desire. She shows them several images on TV and asks for their interpretations. Dominika confidently corrects an arrogant student named Victor, turning him into the laughingstock of the class. Another female student successfully guesses the second image and is chosen to fulfill a guy's desires at the front of the class, but she ultimately fails to do so. The tension and high-stakes training continue as Dominika and her fellow Sparrows navigate this treacherous world of seduction and manipulation. The next day, the students at State School 4 are given a special task, welcoming a group of soldiers who have returned from combat. Dominika chooses a young man and leads him to a private room, where she fulfills his desires. Later, Matron and the other students observe the performance, and Matron provides feedback. While Dominika's technique is praised, Matron notes that she hasn't fully mastered the art of giving herself up. After class, Dominika heads to the showers. Unfortunately, Victor, an arrogant fellow student, attempts to assault her. But Dominika isn't one to be a victim. She bravely defends herself by using a water tap to beat him about the head and shoulders. The incident creates a huge uproar, and even General Vladimir himself arrives at the school to investigate. He questions Dominika about her actions, and she boldly responds that her loyalty lies with the state, not her fellow student. The tension and drama are at an all-time high as Dominika navigates the challenging world of Sparrow training while staying true to her values and protecting herself from those who seek to harm her. During the next class at their training facility, Matron, the instructor, singles out Dominika and Victor, while General Vladimir observes the interaction via a CCTV camera. Matron shows Dominika a photograph of Victor and asks her to discern his desires. Subsequently, Victor is brought into the room, and Matron instructs Dominika to fulfill his wishes. Dominika seemingly plays Matron's game and undresses and readies herself for Victor's assault, but goads Victor in the process. To Victor's dismay, still shaken from a previous incident, he decides he's unable to engage and leaves without any physical contact. Dominika then responds to Matron's query, revealing that Victor desires power, impressing Vladimir with her insightful understanding. As a result, Vladimir assigns her a mission in Budapest, where her task involves gaining the trust of a person named Nate and uncovering the true identity of someone named Marble. Accepting the assignment, Dominika embarks on her journey to Budapest and shares lodgings with a fellow Sparrow named Marta. Their activities are overseen by SVR Station Chief Maxim Volantov. She begins her surveillance of Nate, visiting the same swimming pool he frequents. After reviewing photos of Nate's recent acquaintances that are all blondes, Dominika decides to dye her hair blonde as well. During one visit to the pool, Dominika deliberately collides with Nate and strikes up a conversation, concealing her true purpose by posing as an embassy translator. The following day, Dominika visits the swimming pool, hoping to meet Nate again, but he is nowhere to be found. Adding to her concern, she discovered that her ID was missing. Unbeknownst to her, Nate had already deduced her true identity as a Russian spy on a mission to uncover the elusive figure known as Marble. Recognizing the potential value of this intelligence, Nate promptly reported it to his superiors, who granted him permission to approach Dominika in order to gather further information. Later, during a social visit at the U.S. Embassy, Dominika chanced upon Marta engaging in conversation with an American politician by the name of Stephanie Boucher. Soon after, Nate approached Dominika and admitted to taking her ID from the swimming pool. Realizing that Nate was aware of her true intentions, Dominika decided to come clean about her mission. They engaged in a brief but revealing conversation, and eventually, they agreed to meet for dinner the next day. After the encounter, Dominika returned to her apartment and, driven by her suspicions, decided to search Marta's room. To her astonishment, she stumbled upon evidence that Marta had been planning to purchase secret information from Stephanie. Marta unexpectedly returned to the apartment, but Dominika escaped Matrita's room undetected. When talking in their hallway, Marta informs Dominika that their supervisor is sending a negative performance report to Moscow about Dominika not making progress finding information about the mole from Nate. The following day, after her work, Dominika decides to follow Chief Maxim to a bar, where she makes a bold move and requests him to give her more time for her mission by sending a favorable report to Moscow. To exert pressure on him, Dominika provokes Chief Maxim into physically assaulting her, cunningly ensuring the act is captured on surveillance cameras. Armed with this incriminating evidence, she uses it to blackmail him into providing a more positive report, otherwise, she threatens to turn him over to the police. Meanwhile, Nate eagerly waits for Dominika at a restaurant, but as she doesn't arrive for quite some time, he assumes she has stood him up. Unbeknownst to Nate, Dominika secretly tails him to his place. She rings his doorbell, and Nate discreetly lets her in, expressing surprise at how she managed to find his address. To ensure their conversation remains private, Dominika turns up the volume of the TV. She then proceeds to inquire about the events that occurred in Gorky Park. After obtaining the information she sought, Dominika unexpectedly kisses Nate, but he interrupts her and urges her to leave and go home. The next day, an unexpected visitor arrives at Dominika's place. It's Ivan, checking on her progress with Nate. Under the pressure to buy more time for her mission, Dominika fabricates a lie, informing Ivan that she is also involved in the investigation of Stephanie's case alongside Marta but requires additional funding to proceed. Ivan contemplates the situation and decides to leave for the moment. Seizing the opportunity, Dominika manages to sneak a glimpse of Ivan's passport, hoping to gather valuable information about him. Later that same evening, Dominika returns home only to be greeted by a horrifying sight. She discovers Marta's lifeless body lying in the bathtub. Before she can fully grasp the shocking reality, Matoran, the same SVR agent from before, unexpectedly emerges from the shadows and grabs her by the neck. He coldly explains that this fate awaits those who dare to share secrets. Meanwhile, Nate reports to his superiors about Marble's latest message, which confirms Dominika's true identity as a Sparrow. While his superiors perceive her as a potential threat, Nate sees an opportunity to recruit her. The following evening, Nate brings Dominika to her apartment and confesses that he knows her real identity. In response, Dominika opens up about her personal story, emphasizing her primary concern is for her mother's safety. Nate proposes a deal to Dominika, suggesting she becomes a double agent for him in exchange for protection. Nate earnestly assures her of his trustworthiness, and this assurance leads them to become intimate. In the morning, Dominika faces a nerve-wracking encounter with Nate's superiors who subject her to a rigorous lie detector test to assess her reliability. Successfully passing the test, she seizes the opportunity to present her value, requesting financial support in exchange for information she claims to possess about Stephanie Boucher. Subsequently, on Friday, Dominika accompanies Maxim to London for a critical meeting with Stephanie, where they plan to execute the transaction. The CIA has thoughtfully prepared a secure hotel room for Dominika, equipped with surveillance cameras and a hidden compartment under the desk containing a set of discs, items she can later exchange for the authentic ones. As Stephanie waits for Marta at the hotel bar, Dominika cleverly approaches her, posing as an emissary sent by Marta. After effectively convincing Stephanie, the exchange takes place, with the discs handed over in return for the agreed-upon sum of money. Dominika skillfully pretends to verify the authenticity of the discs, secretly swapping them with convincing fakes. However, in a dramatic turn of events, Stephanie becomes aware of surveillance by American intelligence agents, causing her to panic. In a rush, she discards the money in a nearby trash bin and attempts to flee across the street, tragically getting struck by a truck and losing her life on the spot. As the whole incident unfolds before the watchful eyes of Russian agents, they become convinced that their mission has been compromised. Suspicions arise, pointing towards Dominika and Maxim as potential informants for the Americans. Consequently, they receive orders to return to Moscow immediately. Upon their arrival, Ivan seizes the discs and apprehends both Dominika and Maxim. Despite their vehement protests of innocence, the two undergo days of unimaginable torture, and tragically, Maxim faces execution. Throughout the ordeal, Dominika maintains her unwavering denial of any involvement with the Americans. Surprisingly, Ivan eventually starts to believe her claims and decides to permit her to return to Budapest to continue her original mission of extracting Marble's identity from Nate. After reuniting with Nate, Dominika and he enjoy a seemingly romantic evening together at his residence. However, their peaceful night takes a dark turn when Dominika wakes up in the middle of the night to a horrifying sight. Matoran is torturing Nate mercilessly, desperate to obtain Marble's identity. Thinking quickly, Dominika pretends to align with Matoran, even assisting in inflicting harm on Nate. Yet, when an opportune moment arises, she seizes the chance to attack Matoran, freeing Nate from his restraints. In a daring alliance, the two adversaries unite to overpower Matoran, but the intense encounter leaves them both seriously injured. In the following scene, Dominika awakens in a hospital bed. To her surprise, General Vladimir pays her an unexpected visit. They talk in the hallway and she's shocked when Vladimir discloses that he is, in fact, the mole known as Marble. He shares that as a once fervently patriotic official, he grew disillusioned with the rampant corruption in Russia after his sick wife was denied treatment by an American doctor, because of Russian bureaucrats. Fearing imminent capture and desperate to prevent his sacrifice from being in vain, Vladimir devises a daring plan for Dominika. He instructs her to expose him to Ivan, the Russian authority, which would elevate her to the status of a national hero and allow her to take his place as the mole. Initially deeming the idea absurd, Dominika gradually succumbs to Vladimir's persistent persuasion and ultimately makes the bold decision to turn herself into the authorities. She requests to meet the Russian ambassador and, once granted the opportunity, reveals that she possesses the name of the mole. However, she proposes a condition: she will only divulge the mole's identity if she is granted her freedom. As a result of their conversation, an exchange meeting is arranged at an airport. Nate is assigned the task of accompanying Dominika to confirm the mole's identity. He feels deeply hurt and betrayed by Dominika's actions, as he perceives himself to have been used. Despite his mixed emotions, Dominika has a surprise in store for him at the exchange meeting. Soon after, the Russian authorities bring forth a mole whose identity comes as a shock to everyone. It turns out to be Ivan himself. Astonishingly, it is revealed that Dominika had been orchestrating a scheme to frame her own uncle from the moment she arrived in Budapest, even going so far as to hold him responsible for the failed exchange in London. Nate is taken aback by this revelation and promptly verifies that Ivan is indeed the mole. Tragically, just after the exchange, Ivan falls victim to a gunshot from a Russian sniper. Following the tense exchange, Dominika is whisked away on a helicopter. In the final scene, she is seen being honored during a Russian military ceremony, graced by the presence of General Vladimir. Dominika's lifelong dream comes true as she now lives a free and fulfilling life with her mother, away from the shadows of espionage and deceit that once consumed her. Relaxing on her bed, Dominika gets a phone call. No words are spoken, but Grieg's piano concerto is playing over the phone. Dominika believes it's Nate's subtle calling card, given that she'd told him she danced her first solo performance to that music.